And so he calls out the question that we read earlier. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then has the health of my poor people not been restored? And it's scary, my sisters and brothers, how similar this voice sounds to our voices as we survey the carnage of the national and international tragedies of our own day and of our own time. Sadly, the world is full of the sounds of these suffering voices, and today I want to turn our theological ears to a particular voice. I want to tune in and let us listen to the voice of women in the black community in America suffering from breast cancer. Indeed, the breast cancer pandemic crosses geographical and cultural boundaries. However, while statistics have determined that more white women are diagnosed with breast cancers, studies have shown that more black women die from it. They have shown that thousands of African American women are dying needlessly from breast cancer because of psychosocial, cultural, and economic barriers. And nothing speaks more clearly to the shocking breast cancer health disparities than the fact that black women are less likely to get breast cancer, yet have a higher breast cancer death rate. Breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among black women, and last year the CDC reported that breast cancer was the leading cause of cancer death for black women aged 45 to 64 years. And what was most alarming in the CDC report was that the breast cancer death rate for women in the black community was 60% higher than it was for the majority community. And in order to understand the reason for this, you've got to understand how the nation's policies cause health disparities between the majority community and communities of color. You see, sisters and brothers, multiple factors contribute to racial, ethnic health disparities. You've got socioeconomic factors, education, employment, income. You've got social environmental factors, educational attainment, economic opportunities, racial and ethnic discrimination, neighborhood and work conditions, access to preventive health care services, cancer screenings and vaccinations. When you don't have a quality education, you can't get a good paying job. When you can't get a good paying job, you can't live in a decent neighborhood, have decent transportation. When you don't have transportation and don't live in a good neighborhood, you shop at a substandard market. Am I in the right house? You don't shop at the organic food place. You go to Hello Supermarket. Y'all ain't gonna help me preach in here today. You go down to the local convenience store down on the corner, and instead of your children having a nutritious meal, they're having oodles of noodles. Am I in the right house? You don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and healthy and nutritious foods. You live in a place where they don't mind building incinerators like they plan to do right here in Springfield in a community of color, despite the fact that that neighborhood doesn't want it, despite the fact that the city council doesn't even want it, despite the fact that the residents don't want it. Money talks. Come on, somebody. And so they're willing to build an incinerator in a black neighborhood when they would not build it in Long Meadow or East Long Meadow, come on, or in Wilbraham or anywhere else. So they'll build it here and burn off poison that gets in your lungs and gets in your children's lungs and that cause health problems for generations yet to come. Health disparities can mean earlier death, decreased quality of life, loss of economic opportunity, and injustice. You have high rates of debilitating disease such as obesity and cancer and diabetes and AIDS. And one of the most glaring disparities is apparent in the African American community is that 48% of all African American adults suffer from some kind of chronic disease. Whether it's obesity, cancer, diabetes, chronic heart disease, hypertension, HIV, AIDS, nearly half of black people, 1 out of every 2 adults, is suffering from some kind of chronic disease. Then you have reduced access to care. Racial and ethnic minorities and low-income populations experience serious disparities in rates of insurance and access to health care. Then when somebody comes along and pushes through a measure to give those who otherwise wouldn't be able to go and get a mammogram for early detection, when somebody comes along and pushes through a measure to give disenfranchised folk access to health care, old Ahab jumps up and says on day 1, I'm going to repeal Obamacare. I wish I had somebody in here. When a lifeline gets thrown out with critical measures that will help our sisters suffering from breast cancer. When a lifeline to say we'll cover you even with your pre-existing condition. When a lifeline gets thrown out that there will be no caps on your coverage. When a lifeline gets thrown out that will eliminate barriers for African American women to get diagnosed early, some fool has the unmitigated audacity. Y'all ain't gonna help me in here. Somebody has the unmitigated audacity to say he wants to repeal it and go back to having health disparities that cause our women to die needlessly. Look at somebody and say, no. We're not going for that. We're not going to watch Ahab keep policies in place that kill us. We're going to be like Ahab. And we're going to lift, or rather like Elijah. And we're going to lift up our voice. God has called us not to live like Ahab, but to speak up like Elijah and offer a new alternative vision for the world. A world where the poor and the vulnerable are cared for, where the last shall be first. A vision where the elderly and children are deemed priorities and health is not a privilege, but it is a right. A world where compassion is deeply held as a value and love is lived through justice and through action. My sisters and brothers, we have the power to take the poisonous material of suffering and to concoct a powerful healing balm. And that balm is the commitment to not be silent. Messages of prevention need to be the balm that prevents future generations from dying by the present generation's legacy of silence. Sisters and brothers, the current statistics reveal that there is a serious consequence for us being silent. We sit up in our churches and we do praise and worship and we talk about the Lord making a way, but we won't talk about HIV and AIDS, and we won't talk about breast cancer, and we won't talk about hypertension, and we won't talk about all of this fried chicken that y'all keep selling in the kitchen. Y'all ain't gonna help me preach in here today. There's a consequence for being silent. Look at somebody and say, speak up. Oh, don't be scared at them. Look them in the eye. Point your finger at them like black women do when they mean what they say, and say, speak up. Tell your sisters to get tested. Get your yearly mammograms. Do your self-examination. Tell your brothers to get their prostrates checked. Help me somebody. Go to the doctor on a regular basis. I know you're tough. I know you got a lot of testosterone up in there, but go see the doctor like Kumo D said. Y'all ain't gonna help me preach in here. If they don't have coverage, tell them where to go. Tell them what to do. Help them fill out the application. We can't afford to be silent about our health anymore when we keep on burying folk that are 25 and 35 and 45 and 55 years old that should be living 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 years longer. So let us listen to the voices of those who are suffering from the disease. Let us respond by speaking. If we pay attention to those voices, we'll realize that our sisters with breast cancer are asking the same question that the weeping prophet and his people were asking thousands of years ago. It's the same question being asked today. Why do we continue to suffer in a world where there are abundant healing resources? Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? And so the seasons pass, but yet many corporations continue to pursue profits over people. Meanwhile, millions of children are without health insurance. Consider the tragedy of the American school system. The seasons pass, but yet billions of dollars are dumped into war campaigns. Meanwhile, inner city schools still suffer the same wounds of neglected children, broken buildings, scattered staff, and sparse supplies. The seasons pass, but yet our precious environment is still decimated. The seasons pass, and yet they're still killing in Afghanistan. Yes, they still face rape in Darfur, still injustice in New Orleans and Chicago and Houston and Los Angeles and New York and even in Springfield, Massachusetts. Still homelessness across the nation, still HIV and AIDS, and still cancer is rising in our community. Well, I got to bring this message to a close, but what good news can we find in the text? Because I dare not stand before you and exegete the text and give you all of the bad news, but not tell you where the good news is. There only seems to be the sad reminder that the roots of our destructive action toward each other is what's taking place. In whatever shape or form it is, it runs deep. How does one find good news in such a profound lament where the prophet is crying along with the people? Well, my sisters and brothers, it depends on how you read the text. You've got to read the text with a critical eye. And when you read the text the way the black church has traditionally read the text, it's not a woeful culmination of hope lost in the form of a question, is there no balm in Gilead? But it is the declarative climatic response. It is a crescendo of hope waiting to be fulfilled. You've got to take that despairing squiggly line at the end of the question. Is there no balm in Gilead? And you've got to straighten out that question mark. And you've got to turn it into an exclamation point. Oh my God, what a brilliant rhetorical device Jeremiah uses in the midst of despair. There is the reminder that a powerful source of unchanging healing and hope is at work. You see, Gilead was a city that had the natural resources used to produce healing balm. Come on, somebody. A balm was like a salve, an ointment. Anybody ever use Vicks? Come on, somebody. You got sick and your grandmama rubbed some Vicks salve on you. Help me here. Anybody ever had a sore back or something and you got some Tiger Balm? They produce a healing balm in Gilead, and the balm was extracted from a special kind of tree that only grew in Gilead. The writer of Jeremiah uses Gilead as a metaphor for God in heaven. The writer knew that the readers would have automatically associated Gilead Gilead with images of abundant resources and healing ointment and skilled physician. And so Jeremiah uses the images of Gilead, a